take over this country. I said, no, no, you stupid person. It says, make America great again. It's okay if it takes over the country. It's called Make America Great Again. And that's where we are right now. It's America. We'll put America first. But because we're putting it first, we're doing so well, there's going to be plenty left over to help the world. And we can help the world psychologically. So we think we're going to do well with Russia, Ukraine. 5,000 soldiers are being killed every single week on average. 5,000. And they're not from here, and they're not from the USA. They're from Ukraine and Russia. So some people would say, why are you bothering? Because these are 5,000 young people. Well, they're getting older because they've gone through so many that they are actually getting older. But these are 5,000 people that leave their home, wave goodbye to their parents. Their parents are so proud of them, their sisters, their brothers, and that's the last they ever see them. They're wiped out. And if you would see the satellite pictures, I get satellite pictures of that battlefield, and I want to tell you, I've never seen anything like I wish I never saw it. You have heads and arms and legs strewn all over the field, and you just take a look at that, and, you know, when you think 5,000 a week on average, and that's actually a low number. So we're going to see if we can end that. I was thinking about going, but it's very tough because of what we're doing today and tomorrow. But, you know, if something happened, I'd go on Friday if it was appropriate. But we have people right now negotiating, and I think that I just hope that Russia and Ukraine are able to do something because it has to stop. Not only the money, we spent $350 billion there. Just hand it. Nobody even knows where the money is. Just send them a check. There's no accounting. There's no one. Just give him money. Every time he came, I have to hand it to him. I think he's the greatest salesman maybe in history. Every time he came to the United States, he'd walk away with $100 billion, you know. That's a good salesman, right? Even by your standards. This is a big standard right here. But that's a pretty good set. No, he'd walk in, leave with $100 billion. Last time he didn't do as well. He only got $60 billion. And it was so easy. It was like taking candy from a baby. That was the last administration. This administration has been a little bit tougher. But would like to see it end, and I think we're going to have a chance at doing it. And would like to see if we could solve the Iran problem in an intelligent way as opposed to a brutal way. There's only two, intelligent and brutal. Those are the two alternatives. So I want to thank everybody for being here very much, and we're going to take some questions, and perhaps now we'll ask the press to leave, and we're going to see you at the airfield. We're going to have a display of American equipment, okay? Yeah. Jennifer, go ahead.
Mr. President, no Putin's address. No Putin's address. Are you disappointed by that?
No, I didn't anticipate. I actually said, why would he go if I'm not going? Because I wasn't going to go. I wasn't planning to go. I would go, but I wasn't planning to go. And I said, I don't think he's going to go if I don't go. And that turned out to be right. But we have people there. Marco, as you know, is doing a fantastic job. Marco's there, Secretary of State, and we have people there. But I didn't think it was possible for Putin to go if I'm not there. Jennifer?
Sir, on the sovereign wealth fund, your proposal for the sovereign wealth fund
that we're planning on doing?
Yeah.
Well, look, Howard likes the idea. I'm less. I want to really make a lot of money, pay off debt, and just get it, and then you do a fund. You know, these people have no debt. It's nice to have a fund. I say to Howard, we're a little early because we have debt, and really. It sounds like a lot, but relative to the kind of income and everything that we have, it's not really that much. But it's still a lot, and I'd rather pay the debt off and then do the fund after the debt's paid off. And you know, to me, the fund is just pay off debt. We're making a lot of money. We had a situation 6 months ago. We were losing $5 billion a day on trade. Now we're making money on trade. Don't forget. We were losing $1 trillion to China, so we essentially went cold turkey with China for a period of a month. Therefore, we weren't losing $1 trillion. You know, I think that's pretty simple, Scott, right? Scott did a great job over there. They made a deal. They have great relationships with China. You might want to speak about that while the press is here for a second, Scott, the relationship we have with China.
It was a very important step in establishing a working relationship below the two heads of state. So with the tariff program, we had a plan, we have a process, and now we have a mechanism with our Chinese counterparts to prevent an escalation again. We're going to go into a series of negotiations. They're going to be fulsome, and we have a lot to talk about, but I think over the next 90 days we can accomplish a lot.
We're going to be, I think I can mention, I'm not sure if the press will understand this, but I've devoted, I find it, number one, I find it fascinating. If you don't like things, you're not going to do well, but I do. I find it amazing. So I'm so looking forward to watching some of the power that they purchase at great price. But you'll see some jets today. Some of the reporters were in the plane. Were you in the plane as we were surrounded by 8 F-15s? You saw that? Were you concerned at all? It was a little bit spooky, right? It's a little bit different when I'm reading the name of the pilot from my, I'm saying the name, Rigraw. I look at his helmet. He's got his name and he's waving to us, and he's like where you are. And so I'm not sure I feel great about it, but we certainly had a lot of firepower surrounding, and as we were coming in, it was beautiful. And then just before we landed, boom, they took off, and nobody's ever seen it. They circled the plane, 8 of them, and we're landing, so now we're there. And it was really a display of beauty, and we heard it too. We were in the plane. I said, "What is that?" Because they stepped on the gas, because it's hard for them to only go 500 miles an hour. That's called very slow. It's not that those planes they're not meant to go 500 miles an hour, but it's really good. Great pilots, great display. So we're going to see that. But one of the things for the people that are interested in the military that I asked to look into, the F-35, we're doing an upgrade, a simple upgrade, but we're also doing an F-55. I'm going to call it an F-55, and that's going to be a substantial upgrade, but it's going to be also with 2 engines, because the F-35 has a single engine. I don't like single engines. Even this man, he's the best in the world at engines, but on occasion, I know you won't admit this, if an engine goes out, it's nice to have 2, 3, or 4. That's why I like the 747. It's got 4. And but today they're getting very big, and it's a little more cost-saving to have 2 very, very big ones. But no matter how good, they tell me, Larry, the engine will never go out. Well, I think it goes out on occasion, very rarely. And we're going to do an F-55, and I think if we get the right price, we have to get the right price. And that'll be 2 engines and a super upgrade on the F-35. And then we're going to do the F-22. I think the most beautiful fighter jet in the world is the F-22, but we're going to do an F-22 Super, and it'll be a very modern version of the F-22 fighter jet. And I don't know if you know it, but you know who copied it? China. They copied it. I said, I'm looking. They said, that's the F-22. They copied our design, but they won't be able to copy our engines too quickly or anything else. So we're going to be doing an F-22 Super, and this will be a plane like no. To me, it's the most beautiful fighter jet ever made, and so I want to do that. And sometimes, stealth. They do stealth. I'm not a huge believer in stealth, because stealth is basically a lot of it's the design and the shape, and I'm sure you maybe think, but also if that's the case, they're going to figure it out pretty fast, I think. So you're going to design an ugly plane for stealth reasons, and then 6 months later, they're going to figure out this, and then you're stuck with a plane. Now we're doing a super F-22, and we're going to be going with it pretty quickly. And then, as I told you, we're going to be doing a tremendous variety of drones, from lots of very inexpensive drones, and on the F-55 and on the F-35, but much more on the F-55 and on your plane that you're doing, which he calls the F-47. F-47. I said, how'd you come up with 47? That's an interest. It was very nice, actually. But you said there's a tremendous capability for, it travels with many, many, potentially hundreds of drones, right? Do you want to talk about that? Because it's very interesting to people.
Well, the F-47 is the first 6th-generation fighter in the world. We're very excited to be developing that, and we'll be bringing that into production in the near future. There's not much I can say about that for for security reasons, but we're very pleased to be in the development process of that airplane.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's got a beautiful weapon, as you say. We're also doing very heavy on submarines. We have a lead on submarines that I don't think, unless you have a really, really stupid group of people, including the president, I don't think anybody can catch us on submarines. We have our submarine, in particular the late model. We're 15 years advanced on the submarine. Nobody can even come close. It can stay underwater for 30 years. Think of it. The only reason it has to come up is for food. It doesn't need water because they have their system of water, which is they can stay forever. The only reason it has to come up is for food. Can you imagine? It could stay underwater for years, going at fast speeds, to very fast speeds, but it has to come up once every couple of months for food. There's something about that. I don't know if we're going to be able to solve that problem, but hopefully it's not going to be a problem we have to worry about. But the submarine, we are so far advanced in the submarine. So we're very proud of it, and we've taken a country that was scoffed at, and we're the hottest country in the world right now. We're going to keep it that way. And just in finalizing that, the military was having 6 months ago, and you wrote about it, Jennifer. I saw an article. But the military was having a very hard time recruiting people, our military. And they were not able to even come close to their goals. That was only 6 months ago. And now, as you also have written, we have a military that we have so many people want to get in. We've never had anything. They say 30 years plus because they only go back, but probably ever. We have never had such excitement to join the military. So we went with a military that couldn't recruit very easily and was really way, way behind, to a military where we're actually picking the people we want. And it's very hard to get in. It's actually hard to get in. And that goes for the police force and the firefighters. I always mention the firefighters. They're incredible. But the police force and the firefighters, we're having a very hard time getting people to become policemen like we had never had before. That was 6 months ago, Biden, because the country had no spirit. It was like just had no heart. It was a dead heart. Now we have the liveliest heart you've ever seen. So I just think it's such a great contrast to think 6 months ago you couldn't get, and now we're setting records. Who would think that could have happened? Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Well, we're working very hard on Gaza, and Gaza's been a territory of death and destruction for many years. The United States get involved and make it just a freedom zone, have a real freedom zone, because it seems that Gaza, every time, every 10 years it happens, put people in homes where they can be safe, and Hamas is going to have to be dealt with. You got to remember, October 7th was one of the worst days in the history of the world, I think, not just local to this region. It was one of the worst, most atrocious attacks anyone's ever seen. But now we're dealing with Hamas, and we're dealing with Iran, and we're dealing with a lot of other things. We're dealing with the Houthis. And that was, I think, very successful. But maybe tomorrow an attack will be made, in which case we go back on the offensive. So it's good. It's good. We have a lot of things happening, a lot of very positive things happening. Okay? Thank you. We'll take care of the guy.
I was born by God's